even know the question, but look. So for the
Mm,
recording, anyways, for the recording, the official judges are Chris, Careless, Rugi, Browley, etc. Now he's going to be taking pro life and we'll be
I
taking pro
never
choice.
agreed to that.
What was
No,
the
I'm just
argument you
kidding.
did? But what was the argument for pro life?
Again, I fucking told you, bitch.
Yeah,
It's
it's for
that
the
it's
recording, obviously,
necessary for the person. Oh my god, shut your
bro. Like this nigga is a cornier Zizu, bro. This nigga's Zizu with an accent. This nigga's a loser.
Bro, free. Why you so
Yeah, like
angry,
he
bro?
isn't
Calm
a
down, nigga.
fucking
You
Zizu
got
judge.
beans.
also has an
You know
accent.
Bro,
what?
I hope
You
y'all
know
know he's
what?
only
Cause
doing
this
this to
little
stall because he doesn't
bitch.
actually have an argument.
Cause this little
Hey, free up the
bitch.
toast on him, bro.
Can.
Up the toast, bro.
Cause this little
Got
If
bitch
you tell
cannot
you
fucking
knock
stop
that train
interrupting
and
me.
die, then Gia got fame.
I'll just local mute this retard. Wait, where is he? I
Bro,
bet.
go. I'm not even talking, bro. Go.
I bet. Now, he's fucking retarded. I already told him the argument. He just cannot
Nigga,
fucking
That's
just
why
track
answer
Optic
the
because he's a
ugly. I call
fucking
you
I'm
retard.
black. I
telling
The
give
you
you
to give the
better.
argument is
argument to the
that
recording.
there is a person, right? That person or persons in general are just the things that we morally value generally,
Bro,
whatever
that's my Optic
like
ugly.
whatever
I could get
position
you
you
like I
take,
should,
right?
son.
He's
I'm
just a
not gonna
fucking moron
I'm
who
evil.
doesn't know that, right? Now the issue with
Okay,
that
bend
is,
both
right?
ways. Beam for the
Rizan,
Who's
chill, chill,
why
yo,
chill.
is
yo,
this nigga
free this
Rizwan
on. We
speaking?
try to hear you rapping, bro. We know you the best on the ground, bro. Chill. I think
Why
damn.
is Rizwan speaking, bro?
I'm sorry.
Anyway,
Cause he the
Was the
best rapper on
argument
the ground.
supposed to be?
that but
Wait, let
anyways,
Free finish real
right?
quick.
The person, right? If it's morally valuable, and the things which get us there is fetus going through the evolutionary process of a pregnancy, right? Then I would also value that's that thing because that's the only way to get to person. Unless there is another way from pregnancy, sorry, outside of pregnancy to get to a baby, sure he can present me that, but he doesn't have that because, you know, there is just like not currently possible given our epistemic access. Now I'm gonna mute this nigga and I'm gonna see what he's saying. Fucking
Oh my
moron.
god, this is the most broken English I ever heard since Tensa. But look, just to be clear, one, I'm sure maybe you didn't hear the question. I'm going to ask it again. What is it that we morally value there? Secondly, why should I care about the consensus of moral validation and what we value? Thirdly, I don't even grant that just because we morally value a specific stage and things that come alongside that stage, that we have to grant the thing in which derives into that stage. In some, I don't grant that just because we value things that are derived from stage two, that means we have to value stage one just because the potency actualizes into stage two. I don't grant that at all. So there's going to be an argument that's needed for that one, the original one, and then you're going to have to answer the question that I've asked like 10 times.
Okay, so now local mute you so I can speak. So number one, his first question relating why is that gonna be morally valuable, and then he gave the analogy with stage one, stage two, right?
What?
So
That
number
wasn't the
one,
first
right?
question.
That's fucking retarded. The question itself is retarded. Not even most retarded pro-choicers
I'm sorry,
give
what
the
was the
fucking
argument?
view that fetuses aren't morally valuable at all. You that's a fucking blunder number
What?
one.
When did I
You
say
fucking
that?
moron. Number two, if it is morally valuable, then the only thing that is left is that it's more important than mother's choices, right? Although I do not think mother's choice matters unless there's an argument for it, right? I'll still give why the fetus is morally valuable because this moron cannot fucking track what I'm saying,
Wait,
right?
I'm sorry, that
So
wasn't the
the same
question.
way, right? If there weren't, let's just hypothetically say, because there are a lot of trees in the world, right? We are justified using trees to create our houses or make our houses, right? But if there were like five trees, right, which allows me to survive, right? That tree is necessary for me to survive epistemically. Without trees, we don't have a way of getting more oxygen, right? So I
What?
would say that trees, in that sense, are instrumentally, or I would not even instrumentally, they're just valuable because of such instrumental indispensability, right? That's the same thing with fetus. If things which I value come from fetus, from the pregnancy or fetus going through evolutionary process, I would also value a fetus. Now, if you want to say, well, that doesn't justify me anything, I'll ask you this hypothetical, right? Let's just say there was this crystal, right? In five
Oh my
days, that
god.
shit will shine. And when it does shine, it saves one person from a disease called mononucleosis. That shit is just basically your organs growing and shit. And you'll die, but you don't notice that shit, right? You don't notice it until you die, until like your organs explode, right? You don't notice shit. If it's like a specific type, right? But let's just say it's that specific type, right?
Oh my
Would
God,
you
this
be
nigga is chatting.
justified in terminating or destroying that crystal on the third day before it shines and fucking saves this person from mononucleosis? I don't think you have a response for that. But yeah, I'm gonna local mute you now.
Yes, the reason why you don't think I have a response
Wait,
for
give
that
me
is
a
because I
second.
was incapable of giving you the response. But no, I'm not doing that. Look, the Apollo method is to say, give me a second so you can think I'm going to forget the arguments. No, I have a good memory. So, one, look, there's multiple blunders you made. Are you there? So, there's no excuses. Where are you there? Hello, 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 hello. Oh my God. Oh, bro. Okay, I'm just going to respond. Look, just because something is valuable doesn't mean it's morally valuable. I can grant that, at least in that analogy that you gave, that the trees are ontologically valuable because you can be ontologically parasitical towards the trees. Does that mean that they're morally valuable? No. A lot of people base their morality off of what is ontologically valuable towards them, or maybe even ontologically parasitical towards them, sure. But does that mean that it's a determination for actual moral consideration? No, that is not what that means at all. And like I said, you're still question banking when it comes to the values there. I apologize, but the first question wasn't the following. Why should we value this thing? The first question was the following, and I asked this about 5 times, so I don't know how you haven't tracked this. What are the values that you said we generally have? I've still yet to hear that answer. Now, in response to the other things, I do believe that the mother choices matter. Secondly, I can even grant that, hypothetically, I'm not saying I do, I can grant that the fetus is valuable, but just because it's valuable doesn't mean that I want to preserve the life of the fetus, because you can have two things that are valuable, but they are incompatible. So I can say that I value this, but I value Y. However, I value Y more. Therefore, the thing that is this, I would call that X. I would choose X under Y, meaning I would choose Y over X due to the level of moral consideration. What the fuck? That's just obvious. Just because I value something doesn't mean that I value it over something else. The fuck? Anyways, I didn't say the fetuses weren't morally valued, even though I don't even grant that they're morally valued under some relativistic views. But you're just confused here. So I'm going to ask again. One, what is the argument as to why, rather than an ontological value, the trees in the analogy you gave hold a moral value? And then secondly, I'm going to ask you for the determination being the consensus of values. What's the argument for that? And then thirdly, it seems as if I can just go off of an egoistic perspective and say something along the lines of, well, I could just value the desire of the person or the persons. And then I can say that's something which seems to be consistent with society. And then it seems as if everything normatively boils down to an egoist perspective,
I'm back.
intuitively as well. So what's the response?
I'm back. So what's up?
I got
You
the
know you heard
question.
everything that I said. Don't even act like you weren't listening and
Ah,
ChatGPT in response to everything that I
ah,
said.
Nigga, I'm my
talking. Get
grandma,
that baby
bro.
back there,
She
man.
came
Sure. So
home.
look,
Take
in
that back.
response, yeah. So look, Rizancho, in response to the tree analogy, it's just the case that that's ontological value, meaning that it can be valued because you're ontologically parasitical to a tree. That's not the same as moral value. I don't know if you like read Tron's amps or some shit like that, but you obviously didn't. Look, that's obviously a blunder on your end. When you say that the mother's choices doesn't matter relative to the situation, I don't grant that. I could just take an egoist perspective and say that that's consistent and intuitive. And then I'm still confused on what we, anyways, knows them. I'm still confused on what we're valuing there. The first question wasn't the following: whether or not we value the fetus, or whether or not the fetus holds value at stage, blah blah blah. No, the stages argument that I gave was in response to something else. The first question is the following: what do we generally value? Because that's the claim that you made initially. I can hear you typing. Make sure you type faster because I speak pretty
No, cause
quickly.
no, I'm playing
Anyways, and
Rocket League,
then
nigga.
I'm sorry, I
Look,
don't think I was
look.
done. Anyways, I didn't say that the fetuses weren't valued. I can grant hypothetically, even though I don't, that the fetuses are valued, and at least in this hypothetical. But does that mean that I want to preserve the life of the fetus? No, because I can grant that X is valuable or morally considered, but I can say that Y is more morally considered, or in other words, more valued, which everybody does that.
W
So I can
smoothie up
say
in
that I value X more than Y, therefore I'm going to choose X over Y. Y being the fetus, X being the choice of the mother, for example. So what's the response?
Okay, so number one, you were fucking dumb as shit. Number two, that shit was fucking ass. So number one, I didn't say that I don't value mother's choice at all. I just said that
I never said that you said that.
I'm sorry, I don't think I was done. I'm just
That's
gonna
completely
mute you
fine. You cut
because you
me
cannot
off too.
control yourself. So yeah, I'm just gonna talk because I now local muted this nigga, so I don't care if he speaks or not. He's totally irrelevant. Number one.
I ain't gonna lie, just give the
You're
argument.
fucking dumb. Number two, that's not what I said. I said that mother's choice doesn't. I don't value mother's choice if there is not shit presented for me to accept that I should value, like a motivation or an argument for that, right? You just haven't given me that. You said that some like giving egoist perspective, like I know you're an egoist, so maybe that's the case, but you hold a retarded view of egoism because you don't even know what it is. You hold subjectivism, you moron. So
What?
that subjectivism view that you hold, which is fucking buns, I don't have no reason to accept subjectivism. In fact, subjectivism to me is gibberish, and I don't understand subjectivism at all. And the ones that I do understand are
But
fucking
there's not very
buns,
much you do
right? I
understand.
don't have to accept that view at all, right? So that's number one. Number two, um, the tree analogy wasn't there to tell you even about some direct moral value. I just said because of its instrumental indispensability. And now track this, dumb bitch. It's
Why is he
instrumentally
whisper packing?
indispensable to something which we intrinsically value, right? Meaning instrumentally necessary. If they didn't exist, we epistemologically, at least, can't have so epistemologically, not logically, not metaphysically, epistemologically, get what is this, bro? Where's on, bro? Stop trolling. We can have oxygen, aka we can have air. Maybe we can even have oxygen, but definitely not enough for air and for us to fucking breathe, you moron. So when we have these types of things, that's what allows us to breathe, and that's how we survive. That's called photosynthesis. I know you don't know what that is because you have never
You
been to
stuttered
school,
while trying to be
but yeah,
rhetorical.
basically that's what allows us to breathe, right? And because, bro, bro,
He
if
doesn't
they don't
even know
stop, bro, I'm just
himself.
gonna stop,
This
bro.
nigga
Dead
zombied
ass,
out.
bro. Bro, smoothie, stop, nigga.
That's not
Anyways,
smoothie, nigga.
Nigga booty.
right.
Nigga shitty.
To
Get it
end
out.
this shit, yeah, because of its instrumental
This nigga's speech is so
indispensability,
poor.
we value it morally, not because purely we value it morally.
Look, okay, one in response.
Someone is spamming the bot.
Nobody
What the
cares.
fuck?
Let me respond. Bro.
But anyways, yeah, to just end it,
Oh my god, he has more to say.
yeah, this shit was
Everybody
ass.
plug your
Your
ears.
buns. You didn't even understand the
He
tree
doesn't even
analogy
sound
again to repeat it
confident.
because somebody was playing soundboards and trolling and shit. Basically, I don't value it directly morally because it gives me something. I instrumentally value it and because it's instrumentally necessary for something that I intrinsically value. That's why I value morally. So there is a bridge between those. I don't think they correlate directly. I never said that. So you are a moron, right?
You're a
And
moron. Wow.
about the egoist perspective, yeah, I think I refuted it. You're just a moron. But yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now, man? I'm going to assume that the
Yeah,
answer is
I muted you.
yes. Okay, so one, retard. Look, the ontological distinction and the moral distinction is something I was just proposing because you're obviously confused. Secondly, to refute something means to defeat it. I'm sorry, was the refutation of egoism supposed to be, I don't see a reason to accept it? Because that doesn't sound like a refutation. That sounds like a careless level backtrack because you know what the fuck you're doing. Now, anyways, when you say I don't care about accepting it. I don't see a reason to accept it. I'm not here to convince you. Look, it's obviously going to be difficult to convince a retard on complex views. So I don't really care about what you accept. I'm not here to convince you. I'm here to convince the judges. So it just seems to be the case that egoism is something that is consistent. And normatively speaking, most situations within society, since I don't grant objectivity when it comes to morality, boils down to egoism. And then I also have an intuition which pumps me towards egoism. That's the reason. That's why I'm an egoist. It seems to be the case that every other normative view has a flaw or problem that if he names the normative view, I can potentially point out, which isn't even necessary for egoism to be something in which is true under my view. Now, anyways, brother. I can grant the analogy there. Look, I could just say something along the lines of, and this is what I said before, but I'm going to clarify it again because maybe the recording wasn't here. I can say something along the lines of you have in self-interest or desire or will in which is compatible with the preservation of the tree. I could say that the tree is what provides you oxygen, and that's not something that's to our knowledge, by the way. That's true. That's scientifically true. Anyways, so I could say that the tree provides us oxygen, and then that oxygen is what employs my continued life. Okay. Well, for the rest of my desires to be something which is actualized, I require my life. That's conditioned from the desires to be actualized. my life. So I could say that I morally value this tree because it helps me actualize more ops. So if it is the case that under egoism, at least the position I take, I can say that moral odds are going to be something that's actualized. If it were the case that you're following what's within your desire, then to follow what's in your desire, you have to have a life. This X object provides me a life, or in other words, employs me a life. Therefore, I can instantiate actions that allow me to perform more odds. So I have a reason to value it. Yes, sure. Oh, okay. But that doesn't equivocate to a fetus because a fetus only employs some people's desires. In the scenario with the tree, that employs everyone's desires. While a fetus, it's well, not everyone's desires, but at most people's desires. While with a fetus, that doesn't employ everyone's desires because some people have desires or possess desires in which are completely incompatible with the fetus's preservation. The fuck? This is just trivially true. So I can grant that, in other words, for the tree to exist, most people will value it because it allows them to employ desires that they possess. But that's a distinct reason for your position because this is only an answer under my position. So I don't see why that's going to be relevant. And then for the baby, that's only compatible, as I've said, with a group of people's desires, which is what I value. So what's the response? And don't start with, oh, you're ass, you're retarded, that's moronic. Give an actual response because you're failing substantively and you're failing rhetorically.
Okay, so this nigga's getting local muted now that he's pushing rhetoric because he doesn't have it. He's a fucking bitch. He's buns. He's a Shinra
What?
victim. He's everybody's victim at this point. I don't know who like didn't get a feed of this nigga, bro. If you didn't, that's
Just
on you,
I'm
bro.
respond to
sorry.
the
But
Is that
argument.
anyways,
supposed to be the
um,
response?
I don't know who even piped up. But anyways, the point they so the egoism part, they're just fucking buns, and that's retarded. Cause you're saying I can go over every single view individually and I can point out a flaw. I can do the same thing with egoism. In fact, for your egoism, I can do way more because your egoism isn't even egoism, it's subjectivism because you're a moron, right? So that is number one. Number two,
What?
I don't care for what your intuition is. If that intuition isn't about to persuade me or anybody, if your justification for that is my intuition, I couldn't care less about that justification, right? So that's number one for ego. Number two, I know you don't want to engage in a way that you're trying to convince me. You're trying to convince somebody else. I don't know why. I don't know how you engage with normal people in discussions, but that is on
What?
you. I don't fucking care about that. Number three, the tree analogy. Again, that's not just because in abortion debate nobody cares
This
about
nigga
the
is buns.
desires, right? That's what I'm trying to tell you. Nobody gives a fuck about what desires are here. It talks about obligations. It talks about sentience. It talks about the race, like anthropomorphic traits and that shit. Nobody cares about fucking desires. If that was
What?
like the point of the debate, we wouldn't have this debate at this point in time, right? There's a reason why we do have this debate. Um, you brought up something about the baby, and you brought up the desires again. My the thing isn't that desires, right, aren't at all
Oh
gonna
my
be
god.
something which is going to be a relevant symmetry breaker or relevant like giver of what is like moral judgment, right? I am just telling you that I don't have a certain motivation for that given how I use semantics for morality, right? I don't have a reason to accept desires. To me that's just gibberish. Under the view I take, it's either gibberish, retarded, or something that I wouldn't ever use
Under
in my
my view,
entire
you're pretty
life. To
retarded.
me, I don't care about desires at fucking all, right? So given my standards and given the standards of how other people view things, I do not give a fuck about what your desire is for the set moral thing. If desires was the thing that is like a more relevant moral judgment or like a relevant moral giver, under your view, me killing people is good because it's in correspondence to my desires. Me raping women is good because it's in correspondence to my desires. Me doing drugs is good because it's in correspondence to my right. That is fucking moronic. That is retarded. So that wouldn't be the same thing here, right? Sorry, that would be the same thing here. That's my
Low
bad.
tiers
But
tap in, bruh. Shinra reductio.
you said something about as well about the baby. The baby thing. I just brought you the analogy. By the way, the crystal thingy. You never responded to that. You responded to you, although you did respond to the tree analogy again. Tree thing, right? I'm not just that is just trying to show you that things can be instrumentally necessary and gain moral value from their necessity, right? If there was
Bro, this is relevant.
something
I grant this. It's
which
trivially true. Yes.
stopped us from perishing from this earth, every single one of us, it stopped us from perishing from this world, right? There's like this entity, I don't know what it is, just like some button, right? You would protect this button with your life, and you would say that this is something which ought not to be terminated at all costs, not because maybe itself is not morally valuable, but it maybe because it's morally valuable or valuable in a way that is indispensable to something else, right? The tree analogy wasn't there to show that trees are always fucking valuable. I'm not saying that, right? The tree wasn't for that purpose. Tree was only there to show you that instrumental indispensability can lead to some form of value, right? Now, what will be the standard that I judge things by? Again, my normative framework, if you want to quote unquote point out a flaw, doubt you will understand it, but I'll try to shorten it out. It's a conjunction of Aristotelian virtue ethics and objectivist theory of utilitarianism. Just basically, there are some virtues, right? Quote unquote, like be courageous, be brave, blah 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 blah, right? And things which determine how what a certain action is good is because is what is in correspondence to virtues. But the reason why objectivist theory utilitarianism is there, like basically the things which are objectively good for my body would be some like knowledge, autonomy, health, love, right? How I determine which virtue is more valuable, sorry, than the other, in like certain situations, is just gonna be it's what's more in correspondence to this objective list theory, right? That's how I determine which virtue is more important than the other in certain situations, and and meaning in conjunction objective list theory and the usage of practical wisdom, which is just Aristotelian ethics. But if the practical wisdom isn't enough, the thing which is going to determine me this shit is just going to be objective list theory, which also can be included in that, but it depends on how you use semantics.
Yo, how long is this nigga gonna be in
And
the
all
chat,
of
bro?
this
Like,
is
oh my
important because
god.
it leads to something called eudaimonia. I don't know if you know what it is, but eudaimonia is just a concept of flourishing, objective
Yeah, just
flourishing,
local
or
mute him, bro.
but yeah, I'll I'm done. You can point out a flaw in that view. I really couldn't care about
Oh, bro,
oh fuck,
shut
what the fuck am
up!
I
Like,
saying?
why is he
I
still
couldn't even
going?
care less about
Oh my
what you're
god.
trying to point out here. I don't even think it's that relevant, and I don't think the standard is even that relevant. I think you're just like chatting on the
Oh my
what's it
god.
called
This nigga has the most
egoism point. But
annoying
yeah, you can
voice.
go.
Oh my god. Okay. So one, I can point out a flaw in every position that you name. Yes, as I said that. Secondly, you saying you can point out a flaw in egoism than trying to give a rape reductio is irrelevant. I'm going to respond to the rape reductio after. Now, the question which is the following: is this how I engage with normal people in discussions? No, because this isn't just a discussion; it's a debate with judges. So I'm going to try to convince the judges. Why? Because I don't care about convincing you because you're retarded. As I've already said, you are retarded. It's very difficult to convince a retarded person and also a biased person, okay? So you're ignorant, retarded, and biased. Anyways, so back to what I was saying, because I just want to prove that I'm better than you, which I am. Everybody agrees. Therefore, I don't care about convincing you. When you say that nobody cares about desires in an abortion debate, that's just not even true. You can take a average white woman layman. If you go on the street and ask them what's their take on abortion, what are they most likely going to say? I don't understand why men talk about this. It's a woman's body, therefore it's a woman's choice. But wait a minute. Don't women make their choices typically off of their desires? Yes. Okay. Yes. And that's just for a pro-choicer. If you were to ask a pro-circumstancer, they would say something along the lines of, well, if the woman got raped, I believe it's okay for her to rape the fetus. All right, plus what the fuck? For her to abort the fetus. And I'm sorry, but what is rape again? Oh, it's probably that some type of sexual act in which imposes on the will of the person you're inflicting the sexual act onto. Okay, free. And what does that mean? That means that your desire was imposed on. So that is also a talk about desires. So yes, most people engage on conversations of desires and will and self-interest when we're talking about things such as abortion. Okay. Anyways, obviously you believe that egoism is false. But if all you're doing is giving that stupid ass reductio, then that doesn't actually, what's up, John? That doesn't actually defeat the egoism. So I could say something along the lines of, like I said, by the way, everything within society, morally speaking, is able to boil down to an egoist perspective, while there seems to be a flaw from my end on every other normative view. Now, if you have another normative view, then you can present it in what you believe defeats egoism, what you attempted to, and I'm going to respond to that shitty ass fucking view. But when you ask the question, which is the following, so under your view, wouldn't rape and killing and everything like that be good? Look, bro, me and Boy talked about this, bro. When y'all like, I don't know, like what Shinra did to y'all mind, y'all ask questions that are trivially answered under the view. So if I say that all dogs are black, and then you ask the following, wait a minute, so is that dog right beside you black? What do you think, retard? Nah, really, bro? So you're using loose language to attempt to make everyone think that my position is retarded. So let me clarify for you, autistic fucking retard. I can say that under my view, one person relativistically thinks it's okay or is relativistically good to that one person that being raped. But most people generally believe it's wrong. Why? Because most people have the desire to not see someone's will imposed on negatively. Or most people have the desire to not be around rapists. Or most people possess a desire in which is just incompatible with the action of rape. Okay. So there's one. It's generally considered wrong. Secondly, it's intuitively considered wrong, generally speaking. So, you asking a question which is trivially answered under my view is retarded. The reductios don't work. The same as the murder one. I could just use the same application for the murder reductio, quote unquote. That isn't actually a reductio. It's just something you heard first year in debate and tried to take it because you're ass. Anyways, oh man. Now, in response to the something, and by the way, I aired this the first time because I thought you were trolling with this question. The answer to your question, which was the following, and don't try to change the question, this was the following. Are you morally justified or do you have a justification in destroying the crystal? And I will say in your analogy, you don't. Why? Because there isn't a named desire that you possess. And then the justification is obviously going to be relative to desire that you possess. So if I have the desire or I possess the desire to eat a cupcake, then my justification for performing the action is going to be the desire I possess because actualizing that desire is going to create a moral good. It's going to be a good action to actualize the desire. Fuck, because that's at the pinnacle of my moral hierarchy. That attempted actualization of a desire. So that would be doing something moral. Okay. So you would have justification to eat the cupcake. You wouldn't have justification to destroy the crystal, at least in that analogy or example, because it seems to be the case that there isn't a named desire which is compatible with the action of destroying the cupcake. So at least in respect to that clarified example or analogy, the answer is going to be no. You don't have any apparent justification. Now you can try to give some type of clarification or remodel the example because you realize that you don't speak very clearly. Anyways, in response to other shit, brother. Anyways, with your position, all you're doing
Yeah.
is naming a position. I don't grant that the position is true. All you're doing is naming facts about the body. My body sustains health if it is the case that I provided certain dishes, for example. Okay, that's a fact about the body. And then off of those facts about the body, in other words, off of, for example, certain natural facts, you can derive your morality. Yes, a lot of people model their morality off of facts about the body or natural facts or something along the lines of that because there's hedonic states that you grant from pleasing yourself or pleasing your body, sure, but that doesn't justify any objective morality in which is incompatible with egoism. Additionally, all you're doing is just naming positions in which you don't have any justification behind them. So I'm asking for the argument. And then just to be clear, you're pro-life. So you're saying it's universally the case or that there exists an ought for the preservation of life of a fetus, okay? Well, I'm pro-choice. I'm saying that I believe it's morally okay for the decision to be up to the mother. Or in other words, I believe it's the choice of the mother or should be the choice of the mother to actualize the desire preserving the life of the fetus or not preserving the life of the fetus, okay? So your determination is irrelevant because it doesn't tell us moral facts, it tells us natural facts. We have to bridge the gap between the two. And then the positions you named are irrelevant because you're not giving any objective lens. You're just naming positions which you don't even know what the meaning of, and then just attempting to describe them incorrectly. I'm going to ask for the justification again. And then,
Wait,
yeah, man.
Infinity, invite me back to
Yo,
Striker because I'm on a new
huh?
account. I got hacked by some Muslim hackers. Invite me back to
Yo,
Striker.
but I got
Nigga
you.
I
tripping.
ban him when
But
he
hold on, hold on,
rejoins him.
hold on, hold on. But just to be clear, yeah, I got you. I got you. But just to be clear, So the egoist perspective is something that I've discussed with the judges multiple times. So if they're convinced by it, that's all I need. Like I said, I'm just trying to beat you up. I don't really care about convincing you. But go ahead. What's the response? You're the judge, Tron.
Okay, cool. You automatically win, bro.
Dang
You're
it.
so lucky. You're so lucky. Bro, if my parents
think
weren't
Free has
home,
to
I would
go.
insult the shit out of your fucking retarded ass. Holy.
This nigga is so
This.
corny.
Oh my god.
Bro, Free, why do you do this shit, bro?
He's
Oh, Lord.
stalling. That's
You're
what
a
he's
fucking
doing, bro.
moron.
He's
This is
stalling.
the worst response I ever heard since fucking Careless in our debate
Careless
on
beat you.
parsimony.
Didn't you lose to Careless?
Suck.
Yes,
You
Careless beat him.
suck. You
Careless
absolute
beat
What am I
dummy.
hearing?
Holy fuck. So, number one, the egoism point. The reason why I said it was retarded and the reason why I gave you what I gave you is because your egoism isn't
That's not a
fucking
proper
egoism,
sentence.
it's
Dude, I got-
subjectivism. Because it's fucking retarded. You think it's like in correspondence to your
Can
desires.
you tell
That
me
is
what my
subjectivism
egoism is?
analytically, you
Can you
absolute
tell me what
dimwit.
my? That's not
When I
true.
tell
Can you tell me
you,
what my
right,
egoism
the
is?
reason why I gave you these hypotheticals isn't because I'm trying to say something like, oh, like in your analogy, like, oh, wait, so are dogs black or something? I forgot what you said about that shit, right? No, I'm trying to tell you that if you say something like all dogs are black, and I tell you,
Can you tell me
well,
what my egoism is?
are all shepherds also black? The reason why I'm asking you that is not because I'm trying to be like retarded or something. Is because I'm trying to show you view is fucking absurd because it is,
Obviously, you
and that is the
believe
same
that.
thing
That's
with
the point.
rape, right? That is the thing that I'm trying to point out. Now, the reason why I don't think that shit in correspondence with your desires is relevant because not only do I not use semantics that way, but it's also because it's fucking retarded to say whatever I desire or whatever it's in correspondence to my and colloquial intuitions is going to be good. To me, that is fucking gibberish and that is retarded and negates the whole point of fucking morality, right? That's why I don't use semantics that way because it's fucking moronic, right? Now, the second thing about now the reason why you didn't attack my normative ethical framework is because you didn't understand it. You don't understand the
I
concept of
literally attacked
eudaimonia.
it.
You don't understand Aristotelian virtue ethics. You're
I
a
literally attacked it.
pseudo-intellectual who's running behind egoism. He's a sophist who cannot justify any single position that he fucking holds. Right? So that is
Oh,
number
right.
2. Number 3, the point of abortion isn't that it's in correspondence to people's desires. The reason why people have these debates for so long is because there are actually two competing positions, and there are a lot of other competing positions which try to show either A,
What?
absurdity in other views, or B, why just their position is correct. Yay! Now, what you fail to understand
What
there is
the fuck?
if it was all so simple and it was in correspondence to quote unquote desires or something like that, these debates wouldn't even be had. People don't share the fucking colloquial intuition or quote unquote they don't have this colloquial intuition that we should do things which are in correspondence to our desires. No! If somebody rapes a fucking woman, they go to jail. We send them to jail for for life. What are we talking
This nigga
about
just
here?
conflate
Now, you can see where
legality
people
and
hold these
morality.
colloquial intuitions or some
Because
shit like
legality
that.
is so relevant to morality,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, man.
Like it could be
Yeah,
so
man.
legal for me to rape a kid in another country in
Wait,
South
oh my
America.
god,
What the fuck are we-
Tron.
This
But
nigga is
anyways,
so ass.
um,
He doesn't even
did you
know.
say rape a kid, bro? I just realized. Holy fuck. But anyways,
This nigga takes 10 seconds to comprehend
I'm
something
trying
that
to
was said
point
5 years
out to
ago.
you that people not only is it not
Get it
relevant
out.
whether they share
Get it
those
out.
intuitions, right? But there wouldn't be a discourse if it was only in correspondence to fucking desires. I cannot have a discourse about attitudes in desires. That will be like talking to you about whether chocolate ice cream is better than vanilla ice cream. That is the type of discourse if what you're saying is true. But cognitivism, right, which you hopefully hold
Get
to
it
if you're a
out. Get it out.
subjectivist, is
Get it out.
talking about that moral statements are truth theft, meaning that you can engage in a discourse, right? Now, if it was just about preferences and attitudes, I wouldn't be able to get to this discourse. I wouldn't be able to do this thing, right? So that is another absurdity that you fucking hold. Number 4. No,
So ass.
brother, abortion about and the hypothetical I gave you for the crystal. If you are thinking, which I think you are, then the reason why it would be immoral to do a certain action is because it's not in correspondence to my desires. fucking moronic and retarded, and you shouldn't be allowed to talk in these debates, right? You're a disgusting
You
fuck,
can't even
right?
speak proper English.
If you want to tell me that the reason why you want to terminate is because it's in
Oh my
preference to
god.
people's desires and that's why we're immoral, if a person, I'll just ask you this: if a person had a different desire, would you be telling them that they're doing something which is immoral, right? Now you might say, well, something like, yeah, okay, or something like
No.
that. Maybe that they would be doing something immoral by my standard, but by their standard they wouldn't, right? But again, to me that's just gibberish because I don't understand that if we have already these normative forces and normative and motivational and normative properties, right? I don't know what you're talking about then from that perspective. Again, it's gibberish. It doesn't make any sense, right? Now, again, I can give you more justification and I can give you more and more justification for pro-life. You're not going to be able to refute it like you weren't able to do this, right? You fucking suck. Hopefully after this debate, this nigga Free and Rizlan can
Oh
debate
my god.
normally, right? Because this shit was just so fucking irritating and I got so fucking mad because you are a retard.
Hey guys, it's Infinity going 336 here,
Okay.
and I'm about to give my judgment on the
Yeah,
debate. I feel like that man won the debate.
okay, one, I'm still not sure even if you know my view of egoism, so I don't really care about that. You saying that I'm conflating egoism with subjectivism. You don't even know my view of egoism. I want you to name my view of egoism, then explain how it's conflated with subjectivism. Additionally, you saying that you don't use semantics that way it's relevant. You're saying that pro-life is something which entails an ought. You're saying that we ought to preserve the life of the fetus in every single scenario, which is why I believe that both of the analogies you gave, which is supposed to be something that's ontologically valued due to the ontological parasitical status. I don't grant that that's analogous because there's no universal instantiation. So, under your position, it is the case that if we were to value this thing, it would have to infer a universally instantiated odds. While within the analogy that you gave, us valuing those things due to the fact that they aren't necessary, they aren't universal, they don't obviously infer a universal instantiated odds because they aren't universal. So, the morality that you're invoking when it comes to pro life would have to infer universal instantiation of an odds, while the analogy that you gave doesn't. In response to the other shit that you said, oh my God. Legality and morality are distinct. Just because someone says, or I apologize, just because someone rapes someone and goes to jail doesn't mean, and I'm not saying that rape is good, but this is just an example. Let me just switch to example real quick so you don't do some retarded shit. Oh, this is ridiculous. He just said that rape is good. Anyways, look, just because someone steals a piece of candy to protect their family because their family's dying and they're starving and they need food, just because we send them to jail doesn't mean that we morally disagree with them. That just means we legally disagree with them. That's them breaking the legal system, which the legal system may be built upon higher ups and which have a distinct type of morality than us. So they model the legal system off of their morality or off of their thoughts or off of their motivations rather than the collective motivation, which isn't as higher up as them when it comes to a societal ranking. Retard. That's called government. That's called a government. You want me to spell it for you? Anyways, you saying I can't justify my egoistic position? My egoistic position. Look, I beat you on egoism. So that wouldn't make any sense. You saying that I can't justify anything, so I don't affirm anything when I've affirmed multiple things. Secondly, I got judgment on you on this same topic. No diff. By coincidence, the person you said was competent before we debated, and then you realize that, oh, he's not competent. I regret agreeing to him because you lost. No diff. And then you also saying it's not collectively intuitive. I don't grant that egoism isn't something that's collectively intuitive. Justify that. That's a claim you made. You saying that I'm asking questions about claims you made doesn't give you a rhetorical upskill. It's called you not knowing what the fuck you're talking about. So you try to be rhetorical and act scared to answer questions that you don't know the answer to. So now I'm going to speak for a little bit longer to give you a chance to search up the answer because I really want to engage in this topic to bitch you even more because you're losing badly. You're getting embarrassed, Noism. Okay. So we're going to continue real quick. One, it is the case that I believe that collective intuition pushes us towards
Noism.
egoism. Independent of collective intuition, I believe that our ultimate actions, meaning that the things that we do that boil down ultimately point us towards egoism rather than our face value ones. And then secondly, when you said we can't have discourse about attitudes, oh my God. One, if I'm a subjectivist, and this is just an example, and you're an objectivist, I can invoke subjective language, and we're having a conversation about subjectivism versus objectivism. Therefore, we're discussing subjectivism and attitudes because attitudes are typically discussed within subjectivism. Secondly, if we're both subjectivists, we could just have a discourse about whether or not you're confusing something that subjectivism states or whether or not there are a consensus of attitudes or something that points us towards an objective lens, etc., or subjective lens. Thirdly, people invoke subjective language onto their talk all the time. All the time, people do that. Whenever we're talking about morality, a lot of people. Oh, my dad just texted me. Anyways, whenever we're talking about morality, a lot of people invoke subjective language. That's not something that's not common. If anything, in a layman's conversation, that's more common than not. And then obviously there's more layman's than there are not layman's. So that means it would be more common for people to invoke subjective language relative to morality in comparison to not. Look at you. Anyways, so you did what I said you were going to do because you're a low tier and I can predict low tiers. You said, are you remodeled the example? Because I knew you were going to because you realized that your initial example didn't really respond to anything. I don't even know if I'm going to be charitable and answer the new example because it was kind of retarded. And then to answer the question, which was the following, uh, uh, would you tell someone that if they have an action or desire that you don't share, at least at face value, would you tell them that's a bad desire or action? To answer that very, very simple question, it would be the case that it depends on the scenario. So one, if the desire they possess is compatible with mine, but it's not the one I share at face value. So, for example, they have a desire to give me cupcakes. I don't possess that desire at face value to have cupcakes, but I possess the ultimate desire to feel pleasure. And ultimately, cupcakes provide me pleasure. Then I would say it's compatible. So I would say that's a moral desire. And that would be a good desire. Secondly, if the desire is just irrelevant to my desire, like it has no relevance at all, it's not compatible or incompatible, I would not comment on it, or I would just say that's good for them. And then thirdly, if it's a desire in which is completely incompatible with my desire, I would say, and let's say I'm talking to a layman, I would just say, well, that's not really good for me, but you do you. But if I'm just talking to a regular person, I would say the same thing, bitch. That's not really okay to me or good for me or whatever, relativistically speaking, but good for you, I guess. Wow. Wow, that doesn't give a reductio. The fact that I'm telling someone that their desire is bad relativistically because it does not fit within my desire doesn't mean anything. And the difference is that a layman is going to be someone, just think of a layman as the average person who doesn't have philosophical discourse, such as me and Cool Guy, for example. And then you have a retard, or you have a retard. So you have a retard, layman, and then you have a philosophical person. A retard free, philosophical person, Cool Guy. An average person is you, Calm. Okay? Anyways, Noism, I know you're not talking. So, in sum, we are able to conversate about attitudes in which invoke subjective language. That's completely fine. There's no response as to why we can't. Most people actually, like I said, have conversations relative to attitudes. Cool Guy, this dumbass retard said that we can't invoke subjective language when talking about abortion or other moral topics. When you say that's a problem of morality, that's obviously retarded. Do you not agree, Cool Guy?
Yeah, I agree. For you, retard. Just quit debating forever.
So, look, one, I don't see the problem with invoking subjective language when talking about